Hi there, thanks for joining. So what we're going to talk about today is solving literal equations. And what do I mean by this literal equations? We are going to see equations that have variables in them. So we're going to solve for one variable in terms of another variable. Okay, so my intention with this video is for the first two examples, I want to go over some problems that tend to have common misunderstandings. The second two examples are going to be new. The first thing I see that causes a problem is when I throw in problems that have fractions like this. It's often we write our answer incorrectly. So what we're going to do is we are going to solve for a, for little a. Okay, so we have to kind of look at this. We have to decide kind of what our entry point is. Well, since the a is here, I'm going to actually start by subtracting c from both sides. And so what I get is I get a minus c is equal to 2/3 ab. Okay, so let's talk about a couple options. I'm going to go to my red pen because these are going to be the things that we cannot do. One instinct for people to do is to divide both sides by 2/3. If we write an answer as a minus c divided by 2/3, I won't take it. You cannot write your fractions within fractions and be simplified. So let's get rid of that. Let's not do that. Okay, and erase all of this. The other option that people want to do is that they want to multiply both sides by the reciprocal 3/2. Well, then here's what's the problem. They end up making this 3/2 a minus c, then they divide. The problem again is that we have a fraction within a fraction, and I won't take that answer. All right, so let's stop talking about all the things to not do, and let's start talking about what I do want you to do, the proper way to write this answer. All right, so what I want you to do is I'm actually going to multiply both sides by the denominator 3. And so over here, 3 divided by 3 is equal to 1, and so I have 2ab, but over on this side, I have 3 times the quantity a minus c. I can even then in my next step, it's up to you if you want to distribute. It doesn't necessarily matter, but this is what I have. Again, we're solving for little a. So I'm going to divide by 2, and I'm going to divide by b, because that will make both of those equal 1. I divide this side by 2 and b, and what I get is 3a minus 3c divided by 2b. And that is what our answer is going to be. But there's a difference. I don't have a fraction within a fraction. So be careful with the way you handle these and don't just divide by 2/3, or it's going to be written in a form that I won't take as an answer. Let's say somebody else in the room did not distribute the 3. Let's say they left their answer like this. This, in my opinion, is the same. I really do not care whether you distribute the 3 or not. Okay? So let's do another one. Just make sure that we've got this concept down. If you are feeling confident after you get the problem written, maybe this would be a good time to pause the video and try it on your own. We're going to solve for p. Okay, so the first step is always that entry point. What do I do first? Well, I'm going to start by undoing the addition and the subtraction. So I get m plus g is equal to the square root of np. So how do we undo a square root? Well, we undo a square root by squaring both sides, which means I need to square this side. Now, this side is m plus g squared, then the square root and the square cancel each other, and I get np. Divide both sides by n, and I get m plus g squared divided by n is equal to p. This answer looks good to me. I would take it. Now, someone else in the room might decide that they want to take m plus g times m plus g, and maybe they want to expand it out. I would take this answer as well. Okay, when you double distribute it, this is what we're going to get. Now, this is also the correct answer. These are the same. But I'm going to go to my red because this is going to be the wrong answer. But let's say you think it's going to be m squared plus g squared divided by n. Now you're incorrect because you don't ever distribute the squared. So I don't mind if you write it in equivalent forms, but you do have to make sure that it mathematically is simplified and correct. All right, so let's get into some new stuff here. Example 3. This is where I need to make sure, no pausing, make sure you pay attention and get this down. All right, so what we're gonna do here is we are going to solve for y. And this is how you're gonna know that the problem is different, is because the variable that you're solving for, how many y's do we see in the problem? We see 2 of them. And so when that happens, that's when you're gonna try these steps right here. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna recopy this problem so I don't write over the original problem. I'm gonna deal with that denominator. We really are kind of stuck with what we can do until we get rid of that divide by x. So the opposite of divide by x is going to be to multiply both sides by x. So what happens here is these simplify to 1. I get 2y equals x times y plus 5, which I'll then distribute in my next step. So I want you to start by multiply by the denominator. And if there's no denominator, then you get to skip over this step and the problem will be even easier. I'm going to go ahead and I am then going to distribute the x. Okay, and then you're going to distribute. Okay, so now what do we do? Because I've got these 2 y's and I have to solve for y. So I'm going to write this first. Your goal is to get the y's on the same side. You're going to do this using addition and subtraction. I really don't care if you get them on the left or the right, but I think it would be a little bit easier if we minus the xy and get everything on the left side. Okay, so I'm left with 2y minus xy is equal to 5x. Again, 2y and xy are not like terms, so please do not condense those. Here's the part that's easy to forget. What do we do now? How do we get y equals if there's 2 of them? What you're going to do is we're going to factor out the y. It's not exactly factoring out a greatest common factor. We're only factoring out the variable we're trying to solve for. So really what I want you to think of it as, you're going to undistribute the y. So if I pull the y out and leave this as 2 minus x, this kind of has the effect of undistributing it. So you can just kind of mentally picture distributing the y, and we'll get back to the step that we had. So now what I want you to do, now that you've factored it out, is we're going to divide by the quantity 2 minus x. And when I divide by this quantity, you can see here that we just got y by itself. And our answer is going to be 5x divided by quantity 2 minus x. Okay? You don't have to have that bottom part in a parenthesis. Sometimes I do want to give you a heads up, your answers may vary where you have all the same terms, but your signs are all opposite. And sometimes that happens because maybe one person gets the y's on the left and another person gets the y's on the right. And so we have the same answer, but we've got different positive and negatives. So when you look at my answer key, you might see for some of the problems this answer or another answer. Just please know for those that as long as you have one of the 2 answers, you are fine. Okay, I think this is example 4. Let's fix that. And let's go over one more like this, only because I'm not in class. I can't read your faces. I can't tell if you're ready to move on or if it still doesn't quite make sense. So maybe a good time if you want to pause the video, see if you can go through it on your own. But I got to tell you what you're solving for. We're going to solve for A. Again, you know it's coming, these type of problems, because the variable that you're solving for, how many of them do you see? And you're exactly right, I see 2 of them. And so here's where we're going to start. Let's see if we can do this a little bit quicker and not write out all the steps this time. Okay, just rewriting the original problem. I have a denominator. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by this quantity a plus 1 to both sides. A plus 1 divided by a plus 1 is 1. And so what I get over here is I have a b times the quantity a plus 1. And over here I just have 3a. Let's do that second step now where we distribute. I really don't care if you put AB or BA. That does not matter either way. Okay. What was it that we said to do when we were trying to solve for A and we have 2 of them? Your goal again, sorry about that. Your goal is to get the A's on the same side. And it really doesn't matter what side. And in fact, I think this time it might be a little bit easier to minus the BA this time. And so we get B equals 3A minus, sorry, I keep messing up. We get 3A minus BA. What's the point of doing that? Again, the goal is to factor out A. Again, we're going to undistribute this A, and I'm left with 3 minus B in this quantity. And so now that we have a single A, I can divide both sides by this quantity 3 minus B. And we get B divided by 3 minus B. Here they simplify, and I have A equals by itself. Okay, so again, there might be another way to write that answer depending on if you decided to get the A's over on the left side, and that's why whenever I think you may do that, I'll just give you two different answers. So that's it. You are going to see this tomorrow after the quiz. I'm going to give you an assignment over solving equations and literal equations. So that's why I wanted you to watch this video coming into class. All right, thanks for tuning in. See you next time you're in class. Bye.